Greetings, mortals, peers, and queers. Welcome to another episode of The Monday Show, where me and a group of other content creators collaborate together to talk in depth about issues that we've wanted to give our thoughts on throughout the week. I will give each of my guests a chance to introduce themselves and talk about what type of content they usually make, and then each of us will have a series of things to talk about for tonight's panel show. We got a great show ready for you tonight. A lot of stuff has happened this week. The Queen of England is dead. We will be talking briefly about that, as well as a few other things I don't want to spoil. With that, I will turn it over to my first guest, PK Dakota. Do you want to give us your name, your pronouns, and what you do, what kind of content you make?
My name's Dakota. My pronouns are he, him, and I make a lot of political content and just random stuff whenever I see my cats or anything like that doing something cute. I'm like, look into the camera, smile, action. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Sweetie Python, you're muted right now. You want to go ahead and give us your name, your pronouns, and what you do?
Hello, I am Sweetie. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a variety streamer, I guess you would call it. So I do funny stuff, I do a lot of gaming, and every now and then I'll go just on a TED Talk about something I know a lot about, because I read a lot and care a lot about current events. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. And your socialist dad. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is James. On TikTok, I'm your socialist dad. I make content that is largely political, historical analysis, just kind of thoughts on discourse and philosophy, and whatever else comes to mind. Sometimes just video shit posting, but yeah, I'm primarily on TikTok.
All right, you want to give us your pronouns?
Oh, yeah. Excuse me.
He, him.
He, him. All right. And for those of us who may be joining us for the first time, I am Lady Avalon. The name is in the bottom left-hand corner. I am a transgender, lesbian, socialist, polyamorous, disabled, atheist, and I'm a ginger. Find which one of those you find most offensive and post it in the comments below. With that, does anyone have any topics they want to dive into first, or shall I start us off?
Lead the way, Lady Avalon.
All right. We have... A UN expert is deeply alarmed at the state of LGBTQ equality in the U.S. Quote, despite 5 decades of progress, equality is not within reach and is often not within sight. Going into it further, the United Nations independent expert on sexual orientation and gender identity says he is deeply alarmed by the state of LGBTQ equality in the U.S. At a Tuesday press briefing following a 10-day trip from the U.S., Victor Madrigal Borlos warned that the progress made over the course of the previous decade is being undermined at both the state and federal level. During the trip, Borlos visited Washington, D.C., Miami, San Diego, and Birmingham, Alabama, and met with representatives from federal and state and local governments, representatives from civil society organizations, LGBTQ people, and authorities in a detention center holding asylum seekers, according to the United Nations release. Quote, I am deeply alarmed by the widespread, profoundly negative riptide created by deliberate actions to roll back the human rights of LGBT people at the state level. The evidence shows that without exception, these actions rely on prejudice and stigmatizing views of LGBT persons, in particular transgender children and youth, and seek to leverage their lives as props for political profit.
Can I stop you?
You go ahead.
I gotta say, the way the headline is written, I genuinely thought this was going to be another homophobic article, or LGBT-phobic article, because the way it's worded, it made me think that they were, like, against any of... It seemed anti-trans rights, and I'm so glad to see that this person... What was his name?
Madrigal
Borlos?
Borlos.
I really appreciate him speaking on this, because it has gotten worse. It's bad right now. If you look at, like, on a state level, and I just got, like, it had me in the first half. I'm so glad that it's the opposite of what I expected.
Mm-hmm. The U.S. has seen a wave of anti-LGBTQ legislation at the state level in recent months, much of it targeting LGBTQ youth. In his report, Madrigal Borlos noted that in 2021, 268 anti-equality bills were introduced in state legislatures, and that number is expected to be even higher in 2022. He called out so-called "don't say gay" laws in Florida and Alabama, which severely restrict the teaching of LGBTQ issues in schools. Laws restricting transgender and gender-diverse people's access to bathrooms, and laws criminalizing transgender children's access to gender-affirming healthcare. He also noted that LGBTQ people of color are particularly at risk in the U.S., facing inequality in relation to health, education, employment, and housing, as well as being disproportionately impacted by violence. He has acknowledged the Biden administration's efforts via executive orders to combat anti-LGBTQ discrimination. Quote, "The Biden-Harris administration has adopted powerful and meaningful actions that are in conformity with international human rights law, reveal a thoughtful strategy created through a participative approach, and provided significant capacity for their implementation," he said. Quote, "In light of a concerted attack to undermine these actions, I exhort the administration to redouble its efforts to support the human rights of all LGBTQ persons living under its jurisdiction." End quote. Thoughts from around the panel?
He ate.
It scared
Did he
me
have
because he
crumbs?
went from like DC to LA, and then it's like Alabama, and it's like, uh-oh.
Birmingham,
Went
Alabama.
to some normal places, then he just went to like a backwards ass place in the world.
Well, Birmingham,
I don't-
Alabama has always been like the site of some pretty huge civil rights fights. Most
Yeah.
famously, the letter of Birmingham jail from Martin Luther King Jr.
Although you gotta remember that the sites where there have been, like the sites that are infamous.
Oh, what? Is Discord deciding to restart on me? Hello, come back.
People died for the cause lived. You know, like that's some of where the best activists were. So you can't write off. It's a mixed bag of history in that, you know, there were people fighting the good fight, and that's part of why we are where we are today, is because of activists in the worst places in America, like Alabama. So hey now, watch your mouth.
I will say, as much as I bash Alabama, Huntsville has a great hobby shop where you can bring your air compressor and work on models with other people. And Mobile, Alabama has a really good pizza shop that's very LGBTQ friendly. But like just
Aw.
traveling around Alabama, it's like a particularly nasty place.
Yeah. Anywhere in the Bible Belt. It's,
All right.
Y'all ever been to a sundown town?
I've heard of them.
They're bad. They're bad places. Especially bad places to find yourself in, not knowing what a sundown town is if you're a person of color. Because
Yeah.
I mean, most people of color have known about sundown towns since ever. But like, I know for people of my complexion, a lot of them haven't even heard of sundown towns, don't know what they are. But for people who don't know, it's basically a town that's got like historical, traditional, like cultural ties to racism, and it was one of those places where they would have like signs saying, if you're a person of color, you better not let the sun set because you will be subjected to violence. And a lot of those places in America to this day still follow that culture and practice, and you don't want to find yourself there. Although there are some sundown towns, there are a select few that have like a new generation in that are really trying to get rid of this and be like especially accepting. But I don't see it becoming a safe place for people of color anytime soon. There's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So I did have one I did want to point out with this article.
Yeah, go ahead.
Specifically, links to actually. There's the line where it says that Madrigal Borlos acknowledged the Biden administration's efforts via executive orders to combat anti-LGBTQ discrimination.
Yes.
So follow that link, and it leads to a list of all the actions taken so far by the administration to advance equality. And I was scrolling through it, and it's a long list, but of all of the things that are listed, one of them is an executive order, and that one strengthens the federal workforce to urge diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in recruiting federal workers to achieve to achieve a workforce from all segments of society, end quote. And LGBTQ people were up among those that were listed.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like the rest of these steps are they seem like they're almost like lip service.
Mm-hmm.
Like it like most of them are that they issued a statement acknowledging fill in the blank. They announced. Well, I guess there was a rule announced by the State Department that they will create a gender marker for non-binary and intersex people. So that's that's cool. That's good. But it seems about 95% of the steps toward progress that are being acknowledged are basically just them saying words. Like there's no actual enforceable change that is happening to protect people. It's just an acknowledgement of their existence, which I guess is a step in the right direction, but I don't know if you can really call that progress. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I can agree with that it sounds like lip service. Although I would still call it progress. I will take crumbs when we've been given nothing. But this, especially this one that the article links to, this article, it reeks of marketing and like public relations and optics. And like when you actually read it, it doesn't show all that much like codified into law, and it only shows the one executive order. Most of it's just tweets and statements of support, which is nice and great. I'd much rather have that than statements of the opposite. But it, in terms of meaningful change that like, you know, can't be undermined by states, there's not much here.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
I think you
disappointing.
Is it listing the bills coming through the Senate, like the Respect for Marriage Act and other acts through Congress that would help strengthen women's rights, incest, LGBTQ equality? Because there's several of them that's coming through the Senate right now
No, this is just about
that
Biden
would have
and
a
his
lot
act.
Well-
of major impact.
That is what I wanted to highlight. So June
So
25th.
that's not including like.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so it's not like including like everything the federal level's doing, just what specifically Biden's doing, which
Yeah.
he doesn't have a lot of power anyway.
Yeah, and something I wanted to highlight with this. So, June 25th, President Biden issues a new statement of support for the Equality Act. Quote, millions of Americans lack basic non-discrimination protections just because of who they are or whom they love. President Biden believes that every American should be able to live freely, openly, and safely, and that's why he continues to call on the Senate to swiftly pass the Equality Act, legislation that will provide long overdue federal civil rights protections for LGBTQ plus Americans and their families, while strengthening some key civil rights laws for people of color, women, people with disabilities, and people of faith. This is the type of action I want to see, especially when we have a gridlocked Senate and therefore a mostly gridlocked government, is I want to see the bully pulpit used as much as possible. You know, we saw just a little bit ago, you know, Biden give that, I think, hugely important speech where he called out the Republicans for being semi-fascist, and how they've broken away from democracy and how they no longer stand for the rule of law, you know. Maybe he can't pass everything through legislatively, but I want to see him use the bully pulpit, to use the largest microphone in the world to aggressively, loudly advocate for all these policies, advocate for all of these positions. So while, you know, when we say, oh, he tweeted out his support, that might sound like it's not very much. But when you've got the voice of the most powerful person on the planet voicing support for minorities, calling on the Senate to push through legislation, and doing stuff like managing to get the infrastructure bill that was passed a while back, which has an indirect impact on a lot of these issues. That's kind of what you want to see. If he can't push through something legislatively, I want him to show up in the states that refuse. Like, if a senator is blocking a bill, I want him to go to that senator's state, host a rally talking about that bill, gaining support for it in that state. I want him to put those senators on the back foot. I want to see energy, I want to see fire, and I want to see him being a loud and aggressive advocate for the positions he believes in.
I would like to counter.
And
that
we're
by-
only about a month and a half away from being able to turn the Senate blue. So that's one of the reasons I keep harping about voting, because I'm like, only about half the registered voters are voting, and that's leading to a lot of races being like 49, 51 wins for Republicans. And then you look and like, not even half the people showed up to vote.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to point out, though, you mentioned it's the most powerful person in America tweeting about support for things and being an advocate. And yes, advocacy is important, and that's part of your job as the president, but he is the most powerful man in America, politically at least, and he uses that power to tweet. Like, I get that Trump made it really popular, but I don't think I'm asking too much when I say I want more, Papa Joe. I think you can do more, and I would like to see it. I understand that you're scared it will splinter some states, but I also, like you said, not even half of us are registering to vote. I don't think it would create that much chaos. I think you could maybe step in a little bit more, especially when it comes to protecting trans youths, with the recent criminalizations of giving healthcare to trans kids. I think it's okay to maybe use your power for more than tweeting, because things are getting bad for the LGBT, and I think Marlowe's was right to loudly share concern over it.
Borlos.
Borlos. Okay. Sorry.
It's all right. Yeah. Any
Even if he does like some orders, though, like the states can still sue and say, "Hey, it's our state constitution," and then it would just go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's conservative. So even if he does do stuff like that, it's more or less just wasting time and spinning wheels unless we actually give him a majority to be able to pass actual laws into effect.
Voting is definitely the first and foremost thing to do, for sure.
Mm.
I'm asking a lot from everybody. I want more from Joe Biden, and I want more from Americans in general.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
We need.
you can do it. I believe in you.
We need an engaged civil society.
I'd say that the main reason that I took issue with that one little passage is that I think that having a line in there that says that he's been taking a lot of action via executive orders is misleading.
It is.
I think that relegating the successes or influence that is coming through to one person who is not actually doing these things single-handedly results in people kind of resting on their laurels, or just like sitting back and relaxing about it, which is not what people are doing. I don't think that Biden is doing necessarily a bad job. I don't think that he is like an abject failure or an enemy or anything like that. But I do think that my issue is more with the representation in the journalism. Is that is not, it's not a helpful way to present him. If it were saying that he has used his largesse to influence change, then that's something. If you were to acknowledge that you do need to keep a majority in the House and Senate to make that change happen. But I think that saying that it's being done by executive order when it's clearly not is problematic.
Mm-hmm.
American journalism being misleading and problematic? Never.
Say so.
Sorry, LGBTQ nation. We love you.
Yeah. They're a pretty decent source. I remember I had to do a paper on them for class. They're ranked as mostly factual in their reporting, but not high because they don't often label opinion pieces, which can confuse
also-
readers.
The state of media today is just most objective reporting is going to be a little more editorial than it probably should be according to journalism standards. It's just how it is now, and I hate it.
Yeah.
But this LGBTQ nation is definitely one of the least offenders. But that line in particular is
Stands out. It stands out. Because we're all pundits, we all, especially me, probably more than everyone else in this room, because I talk about the news every day. I'll bring up an article, much like this one. I'll read it a little bit and then I'll give my thoughts on it for TikTok and for YouTube on a daily basis. It's really important to try and find accurate pieces of news that are talking about something, something that's filled with a lot of quotes or something that doesn't have a lot of heavy political bias, or if it does, in the case of LGBTQ Nation, exactly where that bias is coming from and which direction it is swinging in, but still find something that is marked as mostly factual to report with. I think it is hugely important for the left to stick to reliable and useful information as often as possible. I remember it was in the last Monday show we did, where I showed a picture of basically some righties in Reddit and other places complaining about how the left is so often right about data and facts that it makes it really hard for the right to objectively prove us wrong. And they were complaining about how the right has to work harder to win the argument because they're so often objective, not supported by facts and reality.
wow, that must be so hard for you.
Yeah, I know. It must be so hard for them. It was.
I guess it sounds fucking impossible to try and prove a point that is based off of incorrect facts. That does sound really hard. You poor things.
It was. It was very funny. All right. Any closing thoughts on this topic before I move on to the next one?
I
Just
do want
throw
to.
out real quick.
Oh.
Yeah. Just on that topic. Okay. Are you all on TikTok?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sweetie Python.
Yeah.
Have you seen the guy with the state spreadsheet?
Oh.
Yeah.
No seat unopposed.
I can't remember what his username is.
Is
but
he the guy with the giant chart?
It's an enormous spreadsheet that has.
He looks like the guy with the red yarn and the text, but it's a really well done spreadsheet with all of his. Yeah, that guy's.
Yeah,
I love him.
It's perfectly organized. He can sort it by state. He can sort it by population. He can sort it by political.
Do we have his username?
We have no seat unopposed.
Is it no seat unopposed?
I believe so. I believe that's what he's talking about. I haven't been in there in a hot minute. I've been busy, but yeah, no seat unopposed. Real great movement. Massive spreadsheet that you can find if you just Google no seat unopposed. It'll come right up, and it'll take you right to the Discord server, where you can also find the spreadsheet that shows every single state and every single county race that's being run, and shows which ones are being uncontested and which ones are being contested, and encourages everyone to jump on board and oppose the unopposed seats. Make them actually run a real race. Give them a fight worth fighting for, and then win. It also connects people with resources like event organizers and people who are used to pounding the pavement and knocking on doors, or people who are good at making ads. It is a hub of everyone to get really involved, to fight for unopposed seats, and see if they can win. And, I talked about this on my channel a couple of weeks ago. The first ever Gen Z member of Congress is set to win in Florida. And good for them. I think, what was their name? Frost? The last name Frost? They were a super cool person. They were once the chair of the Democratic organization to get people out to vote, but then they started running. And I think it's hugely important that young people especially start running for office. The old people have robbed us of the time to get 9 degrees and 20 years of experience before entering the job force. We just kind of have to jump in with both feet, learn as we go, and be like, okay, we're going to try and fix all the shit that they've broken or repair all the stuff they've let rot. And if it ain't broke, make it better. If it is broke, it needs fixing. And if it hasn't been fixed in a while, it probably needs maintenance.
Period.
All right.
Heck yeah.
Jumping on to the next topic. The Queen is dead. And Irish Twitter, Scottish Twitter, Indian Twitter, South African Twitter, America.
My Twitter.
Yeah. Has all been just dancing with joy as the last vestige of a colonial power falls away, and the memes have been immaculate since then, just delicious.
You got any memes? Did you get some memes for us?
Unfortunately, we were supposed to have someone designated to show all the memes, but they couldn't show up today. I just
Next time.
Yeah, I just have this breakdown of like their colonial history and stuff like that, which was supposed to be like a boring companion piece to the fun-hearted
That's
memes.
a lot less fun.
I know. It's like, oh, do you have any
Shitpost the
memes?
whole time.
Do you have any memes? I have colonialism.
I will say, every time somebody says the queen is dead, the witch is dead from The Wizard of Oz plays in my head immediately.
God, I saw
Ding-dong,
that
witch is
tweet
dead.
where someone was like, yeah, they're playing in England right now, and they're having to open up their first night with the she's dead as the first words of the show. Beautiful. The fates really have aligned. Delightful.
Wait, who was saying that at the first plans of their show?
I saw a tweet as I was scrolling on Twitter. Someone's like, the production of Wicked that's happening in England has to open their show by saying she's dead.
Oh my god, yeah, that is a Wicked. Oh my god, that's so good. I bet they get a standing ovation every time immediately upon opening.
Yeah. Yeah, just a quick question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer. We don't have any monarchy defenders in chat here, do we?
Okay, I don't defend the monarchy, but the royal family is really fun to like watch and like scan. Just like as a just because British people are so cute. I don't know if I'm like fetishizing British people, but like the idea of the monarchy is adorable to me, but it's like in real life disgusting. I'm glad she's dead, but I am sad that now there's no like little old lady queen often written for me to make fun of. That I am sad about that. Not gonna lie.
Well,
Real talk though, I like virtually no opinion on the monarchy, but power to Harry and Meghan, like for real. Those two have gone through so much shit. I saw like it was like an 8-minute excerpt from an interview with Harry. I actually saw this today, and describing the way that he was completely ostracized by the media and his family when he and Meghan became a thing. Good on them for getting out of it, like for actually just severing ties and leaving it.
I remember watching that Oprah interview they did, and everyone basically commenting on that this was like like this interview, the way they danced around certain topics was them basically looking directly into the camera and going, "Try us. We've got information you don't want out. Leave us the fuck alone, or we will unleash it all. You got one more
Side
straw.
note.
Try us."
Side note: I can't stand Oprah. Oprah Winfrey. You
my
need
mom
to
was a big
answer
fan
for
of
your
Oprah.
crimes.
What crimes
She's
did she commit?
amazing to watch, but she's an instigator. She's a little shit stirrer, and I don't think she has the best interests of the people she interviews at heart.
Ah, well,
She is a
You
snake.
don't get to-
Oprah Winfrey.
You don't get to be a good person.
You can try.
well, I think the obvious
I'd
solution.
like to see you try.
The obvious solution is for me to interview more people and become the most interviewer person ever, and I'll be the next Oprah.
You just become like Oprah.
Yeah,
God.
I'm interviewing
You're gonna-
someone.
Can I
And
jump on the couch and scream?
then, I
I'll be like Tom Cruise and he is on Oprah. Just get up, go. Yeah. Go.
I'm gonna be like
start with some
Oprah
lower
and
brow
Mr.
content.
Beast melded into one. I'm gonna be like, all right, you get $10,000 just for interviewing me.
You sneak into our houses and leave a surprise gift under our chairs.
Exactly. Oh no, that's such a power move because not only am I interviewing you on Discord, but also like I know exactly where you sleep. All right.
Yeah, just like check under your chair. I have a surprise for you. And we're like,
What the fuck? How'd you get in my house? Listen, I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy.
I gotta change my locks now.
You get to be in Squid Games, and you get to be in Squid Games.
God, not fascist
Exactly.
Oprah.
Exactly.
That's Mr. Beast, Oprah.
Oh
Yeah.
God, so fascist Oprah.
Yeah.
Please don't come after me, Mr. Beast. Ooh woo.
Philanthropy
No.
fascism.
I think Mr. Beast is probably the best version of a YouTuber we could probably get. You know, being his uber charitable self and still making like
Oh, yeah, no.
entertainable content. I think that's probably he's the best we could probably negotiate out of that.
I would, if he was a dictator, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, exactly. I would eat Mr. Beast burgers. It's as my patriotic duty.
Hey, even after hearing about that business model, that's a pretty benevolent business model. Like the way that he did it. Like, have you looked into that at all?
The Beast Burgers, yeah.
He partnered with
Yeah.
other restaurants, and they're like, "Here's the recipe. Make the Mr. Beast burger, and people can order it."
Yeah, like he set them up to like order the ingredients and put together the recipes and then do it all online, and it actually saved a lot of businesses during the pandemic. Like, a
Yeah,
lot
good
of,
on him.
Like little mom and pop places started doing it.
Every single time. Do you remember? Like one of his latest stunts is he set up his own like logistical foundation to handle the logistical issues of all of his charity works because he couldn't get enough other charities to handle the logistics of moving some of his stuff. So he set up his own logistics company to handle it all. Like,
Thanks, Mr. Beast.
That's so wild. Like, well, and the craziest thing about it is that, like, I mean, obviously he is like an IP owner and like a company owner and all that. He is undoubtedly a capitalist, but he's
Beast.
yeah, I don't even think that he's really politically open at all. I don't know that he's ever expressed a political opinion. But I mean, if all that money was going to fall into somebody's hands, at least that money fell into his. I guess.
yeah. Other than being very charitable and like I think progressive, socially, I don't think he's expressed any particular opinions, which is probably what helps his universal appeal.
Oh yes.
Although it would be incredibly funny if he just looked directly into the camera and was like, "All right, so this is a book written by a guy named Crompkin. We're just going to read this right here. It's called The Conquest of Bread."
I would
Alright.
love for him to fuck, what was her name? I can't remember her name. There was this drag queen in like an old movie. It's a very viral clip now where they just go, "What are my politics? Eat shit. Legalize murder." And it's my favorite clip. I think it was on Vine even. It's from an old movie.
Divine.
Is that Divine?
Drag queen. Yeah.
Oh, so the drag queen, Ursula.
Yeah. The Ur drag queen.
Rest her soul. I don't know if she's dead, but he's dead. I don't love
All
him.
right. Let me read at least a few of these, as we've gotten sidetracked into talking about Mr. Beast for 5 or 10 minutes.
All right.
In 1952,
Back to the sads.
Elizabeth was coronated as British Queen in Kenya after her father passed away while she was vacationing there. Just 6 months later, the Mau Mau revolt was crushed by the British, leading to the massacre of 420,000 Kenyans. She remained silent about this black genocide.
She was probably leading the front lines.
In 1961, Queen Elizabeth visited... Oh, I'm going to butcher this name. We're going to try. Kami Nkrumah of Ghana, as part of Cold War power politics to prevent him from seeking Soviet support. This led to the dance between her and Nkrumah, but Nkrumah was used... after a Western-backed coup, Elizabeth did nothing to support Nkrumah. In Argentina...
That's that's so slimy. She literally danced with him for a photo op and then just left him high and dry.
yeah.
Like, oh, let me take a picture to prove I'm not racist. And then just... Wow.
But Nkrumah was
Sorry.
used. After a Western-backed coup, Elizabeth did nothing to support him. In Argentina...
Also, if you ever want someone's help reading, just let me know.
Would you like to read the next part?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
In Argentina's war to reclaim the Malvinas Islands from the UK, misnamed the Falkland Islands by the UK, Queen Elizabeth thanked Reagan for supporting the UK's, quote, principle of self-determination, all while the UK and the US were fighting wars to subdue Northern Ireland and Nicaragua.
In a royal visit... Go ahead.
I think that you should read the second paragraph of that actual screenshot. It's a quote from her.
As a nation, we in Britain were called on... back up. All right. As a nation, we in Britain were called on last year to defend the same principle of self-determination in the Falkland Islands, she said. The support of your government and the American people touched us deeply and demonstrated to the world that our close relationship is based on our shared commitment to the same values.
She's saying that about the British Empire making a, quote, peaceful evolution into 46 independent nations. She is describing colonism. Or,
Colonialism.
Colonialism, thank you.
You're
Brain
welcome.
fart. It's not a peaceful evolution. It's an invasion.
Note who she thanked.
America.
Reagan.
America and Reagan, yes. Of course.
In a royal visit to the west coast of the U.S., Irish and Argentina nationalists united to protest Queen Elizabeth for the UK wars in Ireland and Argentina. An Irish activist in California criticized the Queen for living off tax money from colonized nations inside the UK.
As they should.
After Pope Francis announced that he would apologize to Indigenous residential school survivors in Canada, calls came for her to do the same. As the head of the... How do you pronounce that word? Anglican Church, her church participated in residential schools under her watch. She has not apologized for her role.
I think you can change that to she never apologized for her role. She's gone.
Before the Platinum Jubilee, over 100 Jamaican leaders penned a letter demanding Prince William and Queen Elizabeth promise reparations for perpetuating African slavery, quote, the greatest human rights tragedy in the history of humankind, end quote. Neither apology nor reparations was given. You want to read the next one?
In 2022, Mayans in Belize rejected the arrival of the royal family for the Queen's 70th Jubilee. Neither the Crown nor the Belizean government had consulted the Mayans to enter their land for the visit, with Mayan spokesperson Dionisio Skoll saying it's very colonial in nature. That's very reasonable.
Go for the next one.
As our Platinum Jubilee approached, many poor Britons were arguing that the Jubilee was a self-indulgent use of $35 million for a royal party using taxpayer money, all while debt, living costs, and poverty were rising, and Britons owed £16 billion in debt to the UK government. Wow. That's some capital Hunger Games shit, honestly. That's embarrassing for her. That's embarrassing for the crown.
Yeah. While Queen Elizabeth II's role was mainly as a symbolic head of state, her role in promoting colonial policies abroad and at home show how integral her role was to soften the image of British colonialism in the 20th and 21st centuries within the so-called Commonwealth.
Wow.
Thoughts
Who
from
could be
around
mad
the
at that
panel?
fate?
Yeah. You
She
know,
does look so unassuming and non-threatening. She just looks like a sweet little old lady.
and
Committing
the
war
little
crimes.
fact that she like deliberately wears like one singular color simultaneously because she thinks people won't recognize her otherwise.
I wouldn't. She'd just be some random white old lady to me.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate her dressing like the queen. Like, she has a signature look and she sticks to it, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. If she was in the American South, she would just look like she was going to church every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she does look like a church lady.
Technically, she is a church lady.
She's the church
Okay.
lady. She's
Yeah,
the church
she's
lady
the
that
head
made
of
all
church
those
lady.
fucking... I'm mad about that. I didn't realize that she was the head of the church
Yeah,
for
no.
the conversion schools. Like, that's...
That's a lot.
That's a stain on the entire crown's reputation, frankly. And they should address it, and they should apologize. And it's embarrassing. Like, yeah, I guess it was on her to apologize, but now that she's gone, who's next in line?
Yeah. If anyone in
Charles.
the audience is ever thinking that they haven't accomplished very much in their life, Prince Charles just got his first job, and he's 73. So it's never too late to start, kids.
I think it's more so it's never too late to start old people.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm showing this up on screen. Hang on. Do.
What are you showing me?
This meme. Star Trek was right.
Oh, and of course it was Data.
Yeah.
God bless.
We're
Best character in
we're
Star
also
Trek.
on track for World War III in 2026. So we have that to look forward to.
At what point can we upload our consciousnesses to the Wired? What time is the transhumanism moment in Star Trek?
Not
Do
for
we have one of those?
Not for a minute yet. Not for a minute yet.
Fuck. God, all my eggs are in the wrong basket. I should have been building a bunker. Oh no. Just wasting my time on the computer.
All right.
Want me to read this?
Any closing? Yes, I do. But any closing thoughts on the last topic before we switch over?
There you go, bro.
I vote the next monarch we install should be a monarch butterfly, and that should just continue. Like, no more nothing. Just monarch butterfly run the UK now.
Do you know how many times you would have to have a coronation ceremony? Like, they live a while. And a lot less in captivity. We could have so many kings and queens.
All right. Go ahead and start us off.
This is a tweet from Scott Heckinger. Please pay attention. Years into bail reform in a handful of cities and states around the country, research reports and data are all definitive. Hundreds of thousands more people free. Hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars saved. No related increase in crime. These are facts. Stop believing lies. You know, there's no longer like a word limit. You can use proper grammar on Twitter now. It's allowed. Not. Most robust bail report in history just out. 5 years after changes to Harris County in Houston, Texas's bail laws, the numbers are in and are definitive. Far less people in jail and more freedom mean less crime. I repeat, bail reform reduced crime in Texas. In Los Angeles, where an emergency bail change for COVID helped hundreds of thousands charged with lowest level offenses avoid pretrial jail, lower rearrest rates and failures to appear, hundreds of millions taxpayer dollars saved, freedom. One of the most successful public policies in history.
Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about this, and there is more. It goes on for a while, and we'll read a few more as time goes on. But yeah, bail reform and just the concept of slowly, incrementally improving our justice system to be more fair, more just, more robust, and reduces crime. I don't think I need to state, but the ideas of like minimum sentencing laws and the war on drugs and things like that were all spectacular failures of policy. To say nothing of their moral bankruptcy. They failed to do what they set out to do in the first place.
I mean, System of a Down said it fucking way back. All research in successful drug policy shows that treatment should be increased and drug policies decreased while abolishing mandatory minimum sentences. It's all there. Like, it's been in the research forever that America's, like, punitive system, our incarcerative system, is a complete joke. And it does what it set out to do, which was to criminalize minorities. But it does not. It does the opposite of what it claims to do, which is decrease crime and increase safety. No, it doesn't. It makes this country more of a shithole. Hands down. It does not do what it sets out to do, and it just ruins lives. But I'm glad that we have hard and fast evidence yet again to prove that when we reduce the amount of incarcerated and we stop heavily policing, and yeah, it does reduce the crime.
Mm-hmm.
People have been saying it for years, and they got to keep saying it apparently because things still aren't changing. It needed COVID for this to happen, which I'm not going to say thank God for COVID, but I'm glad something's happening because there needs to be change in this. Sorry, I get mad about this.
No, it's all right. I enjoy the passion. It's good for productive conversations that we're all in high spirits. One of the big things about all of this that I want to hit on is also police departments sometimes have perverse incentives given to them because some cities will rely on police departments to make up gaps in the budget. So police will be incentivized to ticket and otherwise penalize minor infractions just so that the city can make a little extra money. And that is a gross incentive. The incentive is no longer like justice and keeping the peace and enforcing the laws. It's instead trying to meet a quota so that the city can make enough money. And that's always going to lead to bad outcomes. You know, it's not healthy for a society to bank on that.
I mean, the fact that our policing and our prisons are all for profit in and of themselves, I don't think inherently, I guess it does. It inherently incentivizes like anti-human policy. And it's gross.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in Oklahoma City, which I haven't lived there in 4 years now, but I remember getting into a conversation with a cop that was a regular at the same bar that I was a regular at, and the subject was that he was frustrated that people constantly accused him of having quotas because there was people get pulled over, they think it's a bullshit reason, or it is a bullshit reason, and they say like, "Oh, you meet quota," and he was like, "We don't have quotas. There's no quotas. There's no number we have to hit." And then he said that they got an incentive for like they got a little bonus for reaching a certain number each quarter. And it's like
but there's no quotas, just an incentive.
yeah, that's just a quota. That's just a different way to say that you have a quota. That's saying that you have a quota to reach before you get your full pay.
See, that's why
that's-
they have a maximum IQ for police officers, because they can tell them bullshit like that, and they won't question it.
You know, I've heard... Go ahead.
They have to be aware of that on some level. Like, especially whenever it's being put in their face like that. It's not like we're having that conversation and I and somebody else who's sitting next to me, we both point that out to him. It's not like that. It's just hitting a brick wall. Like, he can process that. It's just a choice to remain distant about it and to simultaneously believe that there is no quota and to acknowledge there is a quota. Like,
cognitive dissonance is one of the pillars of modern American society.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the few universally shared traits.
It's a double think. I mean, that goes back to Orwell. You know, it's just double think as a concept become manifest.
Mm.
All right. You want to read a few more for us?
Sure. In Nassau County, New York, the GOP commissioned a study to prove bail reform didn't work. Instead, it showed extraordinary success. Lower rearrest and failure to reappear. Wait, I read this. Didn't I?
I scrolled down.
Oh, okay. Lower arrest and failure to reappear rates. In the 2 years since bail reform, Nassau has been the safest county in the U.S. The most robust criminology study in history was recently released. A meta-analysis based on 116 peer-reviewed studies. Incarceration cannot be justified on grounds it affords public safety. The New York office... oh, wait, did you want to comment?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The New York Office of Court Administration recently released the latest batch of bail data from 2021, giving a clear picture of decline from 2020 in the percentage of rearrests of people released on bail or on their own recognizance. Yeah.
So as we said before, it's really nice to have the hard data out to say what we've been saying all along, that leftist policies, that more human policies, policies that, going about the justice system in a smarter and more empathetic way produces better results, produces a healthier society. I hope no one in the audience would disagree with the idea that the goal of a justice system is not to increase crime, but to decrease it. And some people may think the best way to do that is through punishment and harshness and cruelty at every turn to disincentivize people from doing anything bad. But what we really see is, especially with bail reform, the most robust criminological study in history. They reviewed and found it's better to be more left-leaning in with bail reform, with public spaces. And bail reform will look different for every state to every county because those systems are built a little bit different in every state and every county. There's going to be some overlap, but it's certainly unique to the area, and that's why, as we scroll with this goes on for a while. I just want the audience to take in the fact that so much is here. Let me scroll all the way back up. There's a lot here. More data out of New York City. Fact: nearly all people who are at liberty pre-trial are not rearrested at all, let alone found guilty for allegations involving violence or gun charges. And then that's a little bit too small for me to read.
I can read it.
Oh, you can? Okay, go ahead and read this.
Yeah. 183,000, nearly 200,000 people have been spared any chance of the trauma, destabilization, and deadly conditions of pretrial incarceration. 658 million taxpayer dollars were saved annually that can support community investments, not punishment. 97.2% of those released were not rearrested for a violent felony. 99% of people released to fight their case while free were not rearrested for a charge involving a gun.
Damn, that's pretty good. Thank you for that.
I also just remembered, I have a little anecdote about why policing is such BS, man. It's so obviously just a scheme to get money with barely any consideration, like higher level consideration for the safety of society. Like there's the like, oh, protect and serve, gotta serve duty, follow the law, but that's not what the police practice. Like when I moved back to Phoenix, because that's where I grew up, I was stunned by how lax the traffic officers were, because the norm is to drive at least 10 miles per hour above the speed limit for everybody. If you're not going that fast, you're in the slow lane and you're getting honked at. And there's people, you know how like every lane is a little bit faster?
Mm-hmm.
So there's people going 20 over the speed limit, 30 over the speed limit, and that's just the norm. Like that's not during high traffic periods, that's all the time. And I was like, wow, they're so relaxed with traffic here. It's crazy. I never got pulled over. It was fine. And then I talked to my cousins who are mixed race, and they had the complete opposite experience. They got pulled over almost every time they went out and drove for more than 5 minutes. And they knew all of the cops on a first name basis at this point, because they were actively targeted for being people of color. And it was just a complete night and day, because I was talking about like how crazy relaxed all the cops were here compared to LA. And they were like, what are you smoking? Where are you living? That is not what we have here. Like, there would be times where they would have their dad drive because he was the white guy, so that they wouldn't get pulled over in times where they knew they had to be somewhere at a certain time. It was so bad. And it's just targeted harassment of people of color, especially. Like, the cops will go after certain populations, and if there's nobody in that population, then they'll go for the poor people and the people in the beat-up cars. Which is why if you drive a nice car and you're white, you probably won't get pulled over much unless you literally hit someone. Which, the fact that that's the reality in America, like, what does that have to do with keeping the roads safe?
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
And, you know, my experience with the police is pretty limited, because, and I'm going to pull my hair back for this one, I look like an escaped college professor. You know, like, I snuck out of the facility. I was lab made. I look like 1,000% white boy. It doesn't get more Caucasian than this.
You look like you work in the administration office of a school.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I drive a minivan, you know, and, you know, it's a little beat up, you know. It's one of the front lights is like much newer than the rest of the car, so it looks like the car has a gold tooth. And, you know, so whenever I interact with the police, you know, it's stressful, because it's like, oh my goodness, I'm talking to the police. But they're always very amenable. I've gotten off with I've gotten off with warnings when I really shouldn't have.
Same.
You know, just to share, there was this one time where I accidentally like rear-ended a guy. It was real snowy, and it was real icy out. So I hit the brakes, and I slid like a good extra 10 feet than I expected to. And I lightly tapped the rear of this other car. I didn't really do any damage. The damage was to my hood. He was a big truck. But, you know, the cop is like, yeah, so there's like 3 or 4 things I could ticket you for. But it's almost Christmas, and you seem really stressed. So I'm just going to give you a warning. Pay this $75 fine for rear-ending the guy and driving like not too close to him, and we'll call it a night. And you need to just drive safer. And I said, thank you, officer. Bless you. Merry Christmas. And have a good one. And I paid the fine, and I moved on. I've never feared for my life when speaking to the police, is my point. I've gotten off incredibly light. And, you know, just because I exude this particular kind of energy, it sort of disarms people, which also sometimes has allowed me to get into places, not with the police, but with, you know, just heavily conservative areas where I don't ping the radar at all. I'm not visibly queer enough, even though I'd like to be, but, because I'm not visibly a part of any minority, people will just say stuff near me. They'll just start conversations and they will say the wildest things.
I feel that on a spiritual level
And
as
then-
a non-binary queer.
Yeah.
Like, I can fly under the radar, but people get too comfortable around me.
Yeah, and then
get-
sometimes
I
I
get
can
that.
just like pull like verbal grenades, you know, and just lob those in. They're like, "Oh man, these queer people," and then I can look them right in the eyes and go, "I am a queer people."
Oh, you're brave.
Well,
I'd,
that's because I'm big and strong. I've been in a fight or two
yeah.
before, and I've won most of them. So I never physically worry for my safety. So I always take it as important. Like, not a lot of minorities, not a lot of queer people are blessed with the unique circumstances that I was blessed with, in that I don't look visibly queer. I don't present that way. I don't present as a minority. And also, I'm very big and very strong, and I actually enjoy a good fight. You know, I like good fisticuffs. It's good to get the blood pumping. So when I'm dealing with obstinate or situations that might be deemed dangerous for other people, for me, it's just a good tussle. It's a good row, good back and forth. So I'm more than willing to go into the more dangerous areas with the more contentious people and lock horns with them, and just dare them to try anything with me. And to a degree, that gains their respect. I'm willing to look them straight in the eye and go, "You want to say a slur to my face? I got 3 for you, sir. Let's go." I'm allowed to say some of them. And, you know, if they're like, "Man, I remember I was in an argument with a dude, and he was going off about how, I had mentioned I worked at a food bank for like 8 years. And he went off about how he hated poor people, how he thought they were dirty and filthy. And then part of the conversation was like, "Oh, you can't block people in real life." And I stepped up to him and I said, "Sir, do you know what a fist can do? That's called a block button in real life. It's just one bop to the nose, and you've been blocked. One kick to the dirt, and suddenly all your hatred for poor people gets you in hot water. You cannot be around a food bank. You cannot be around people in need, people who are desperate, people who have had to do things to survive that they're not proud of. And you suddenly start talking shit to those people, you're going to be put in your place real fast. Real fast.
And the Lord will smile down on it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll do that at church.
That's the hand of God punching
Yeah,
you in the
absolutely.
face, actually. Amen.
Honestly, and we are getting on a little bit of a tangent, but tangents are allowed. I was once working with the church, and we went up, and these people had their houses burned down, and some people, the pastor was like, "Hey, round up a couple of boys from the church," and this is back when I was presenting as a boy, and grab some shovels. We're gonna go dig someone a refrigerator. And that's what we did all day. We dug an 8x8x8 hole straight in the dirt, singing and humming, because it's one of the things I really liked about the church, is that my church was really committed to doing charitable acts for people within the church and people without the church. So, we did the food bank, and if someone's needed wood chopped for the winter, we went and we chopped a bunch of wood for the winter. They did that for my house. They did that for a bunch of other houses. I was there for that. Someone needed roofing. We grabbed a couple of boys from the church, a couple of elders and men from the church, tradesmen, and we were assigned to teams. Here's what you do. Haul the wood to here, haul the shingles up here, and we would just build people houses. We would dig them refrigerators, and it was really good to get involved in the community. And that's, to sort of bring it back around to what we were talking about before, focusing on the community, building up the community. be that bail reform. That's one facet of working with the community. Or building someone a house, chopping some wood for them for the winter. These are all things you can do to help integrate with the community, integrate with the people. And, you know, we live in a society that is so atomized and so singular, so about the one and the self, and that is all. The individual, above all, that not a lot of consideration is paid to the community, which I think is the antidote to a lot of capitalist thought, is the community. And I know maybe some people are... we're over an hour here, so I don't know if anyone wants to head out here soon. We can do closing arguments now. If anyone wants to...
I'm glad the queen is dead.
Yeah. The queen is dead. Down with the monarchy. All right. Any closing thoughts from around the panel? If not, then we'll start doing our outros.
As far as thoughts on the prison system and bail reform and all that, especially on the idea of abuse versus rehabilitation, I think that these studies that you're showing and that Scott has highlighted really great. It's good to see. I would love to see the prison systems model themselves more after in particular the Swedish prison system. If you looked into how the Swedish prison system is modeled, it is incredibly progressive and rehabilitative and exceptionally effective. So this is encouraging to see, and I just hope that we keep moving in that direction.
I agree.
All right. PK, shout yourself out and give your closing statement.
You can post everything under PKK Dakota. I really want to see more bail reform, but I also want to see a reformation of the police and how to decrease the amount they play in our lives and the roles they play in our lives and scale them way back and put that money into more of like crisis intervention, people that are certified to deal with like mental health crises, drug intervention, stuff like that, because there's a lot of cities, I think Austin has done it in Texas to really great effect of let's not put people in guns in a place that's already very high stress. Let's put people that can help people manage stress and get through stressful situations instead of just going, there's going to be like 6 guys with guns coming to talk to this person that's going to be down and stuff like that.
All right. Sweetie Python, shout yourself out and give your closing statements.
Hi, I'm Sweetie Python. Follow me on Twitch or Twitter or TikTok or wherever you get your content. I'm there, except YouTube. If you want me on YouTube, you're gonna have to stay right here at Serotonin Studios. Also, with prisons, we should be reforming them with abolition as the goal. We shouldn't make the goal nicer, more humane prisons. No, the goal should be to make prisons unnecessary and obsolete, because they're not necessary. They are obsolete. We have the technology, we have the manpower, we have the personnel, and we have the funding. It's just all going into stupid things. So, abolition forever.
All right. And your socialist dad, shout yourself out. Give your closing statement.
I am your socialist dad on TikTok. Go follow me there. Just don't expect a whole lot from me in the coming couple of weeks. But hopefully more to come soon. Thanks a lot for having me on the panel. This was a fun first time, and yeah.
All right, and we're glad to have you. I want to thank all of my guests. To give my closing outro, I am Lady Avalon. I am the host of Serotonin Studios. I run the Discord server where you can interact with all of my guests. As we all frequent the same Discord server, we all hang out there. We all post our content and interact with the community, as well as we do debates. I do interviews. If you are a leftist content creator and you'd like to be on the panel and you'd like to be interviewed by me, go ahead and shoot me a message on Discord. I am also on TikTok and on YouTube, so contact me in whichever way you see most appropriate. This is our Monday show. We record it, although we release it on Wednesdays because scheduling. Hopefully, once we fix it, we'll be streaming on Mondays. But until then, this has been the Late Night Serotonin Monday Show. And with that, I wish you all a very good evening. Good night. Bye!
Bye.